Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all on this nice Sunday morning. You know, the church, it's July, which is usually the time where most of the church travels. So it's good to see that the church is still full. It's evidence that the fact that this church is bursting at the seams, thanks be to God. And even in July, the slowest time of the year where everybody's traveling, it's still full. God bless all of your faithfulness and your devotion to the church. The gospel this morning is a very beautiful, beautiful gospel. And there's so many angles that one can take this sermon towards. But I was thinking long and hard, and there's a few stories about kids that I feel like really connect to this passage. So I want to start off by talking about how the disciples, they're following Christ, and they're occupied with one thing: stature, authority, who's going to have the best place. Even James and John go to their mama, and their mama comes and pleads on their behalf to, give James and John seated at the right hand of Jesus, right? They're so occupied with authority. They're so occupied with their place. They're so occupied with stature. And I feel like Christ is so sweet with them. He's so compassionate with them. He's kind. It's not like he's not like looking at them, he's not like, "You dummies, what are you doing? Like, what's wrong with you? Don't you see that I came and I didn't come as a king with authority. I came as a humble, lowly, born to in a small town to a poor family. Like, what are you guys even talking about greatness?" But then all of a sudden, in the middle of him trying to teach them a lesson, he sees a little kid. And he says, Come here, little boy. And first off, any kid, if you're in a big crowd, they're going to be nervous, right? I don't know who the stranger danger, right? I don't know you. I don't know who you are. No. I'm not going to but look at what must have Jesus been like that drew children to him. Do you ever think about that? Imagine the scenery here. What must have he been like that all of a sudden, if he goes like this, "Come here, little boy," that the little boy runs, and what does he say? He sets him in the midst of them. He kind of puts them in the middle, and he says, "Look at this little boy." Everybody's looking at this little boy. All eyes are on him. All focus is on him. And he says, "Assuredly I say to you, unless you become converted like this little child, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven." He says, unless you become like a little kid, all of you are focused on your position, focused on your authority, focused on who's going to be the greatest. He says, you see this little kid? Children, by the way, in the times of the apostles, were considered possessions. They were it's men, it's women, and then it's children. Children are vulnerable, they're weak, they're just considered possessions at that time period. They don't have of their own will. So he says, you think it's about being greatest? You think it's about your authority? You think it's about being the best? Let me tell you who's the best. This little boy right here. Does anyone know who this little boy goes on to be? The tradition of the church? Huh? St Ignatius of Antioch, very good. This little boy goes on to be St Ignatius of Antioch. St Ignatius of Antioch is one of the early church fathers. He wrote 7 epistles to the Romans, and he's one of the men, if anyone wants to know what masculinity is, go read the epistles of St Ignatius of Antioch to the church at Rome. I'm going to read a few quotes from his epistles. The church at the time was trying to plead with St. Ignatius, saying, "St. Ignatius, please don't go to martyrdom. Please, we want to spare you." So he says to them, to the church, he says, "Only request on my behalf inward and outward strength, that I may not only speak, but truly will, that I may not merely be called a Christian, but to be found as one." He says, don't go intercede to save me from martyrdom. Don't go do that. He says, let not just my words express that I'm Christian. Let not just my actions express that I'm a Christian, but let all of me manifest that I'm a Christian. For if I truly am found to be a Christian, I may also be called one, and be then deemed faithful when I no longer appear in the world. He goes on to say, I am the wheat of God. Let me be ground by the teeth of the wild beasts, that I might be found as pure bread of Christ. Rather entice the beasts, that they may become my tomb and may leave nothing of my body, so that when I have fallen asleep, I may be of no trouble to anyone. Then shall I truly become a disciple of Christ, when the world shall not see so much as my body. What in the world? He's basically saying, don't intercede. Like, if I was, let's be real, maybe let's use Abuna Paul in the analogy. If Abuna Paul was kidnapped, what would the church do? The church would be like, oh my gosh, we gotta call the diplomats, we gotta do everything to try to rescue him and get him back. We gotta do whatever we can. The church would be up in arms. We'd be reaching out to senators, President Trump, we'd be writing letters to our Congress, we'd do everything, right? Because we gotta make sure that we bring back our Father. St Ignatius, imagine then, Abuna Paul writes a letter to you and says to you, Ya Jama'a, leave me alone. Let me be offered to the beasts. Let me be offered as let me be bread to the world so that people may see my testimony of the way that I live and that they may glorify my heavenly Father. See, the disciples are caught up with position. Who's going to be the greatest? And what does St. Ignatius go on to be? He goes on to be nothing. He goes on to be bones for beasts to eat. He's a bishop in the church. He deserves all reverence and authority, but what does he do? He goes to the lowest place. He goes to the place that nobody even dares to go to. And I guess the question for many of us that I have to ask, we're always occupied with the question of who is the greatest, and why? Why are we so occupied with being the greatest? Why are we so concerned about being the top of my job? Even in ping pong, Egyptians in ping pong, they say, I was number one in my college in Egypt, and I used to play ping. You guys remember? You guys know this. Everybody, by the way, everybody was number one in ping pong in Egypt, I've come to realize. And everyone was number one in their class in Egypt, right? You talk to your parents, I was top of my class, number one in Egypt. Everyone is number one, because we have, as a culture, an obsession with being number one. And by the way, it's not just in our Egyptian culture, it's all ethnic cultures. We have this desire to be number one. And in general, in the world, right? But why? What's the obsession with being number one? What's the obsession with being greatest? Why does one want to be great? Does one want to be great? I want to ask you to evaluate your motives today. Do you want to be great so that you can use the position that God gave you to glorify Him? To serve others, to help others? Like somebody who's in a top position in a job, are they using their position to help others find jobs? Or are they like, nah, Egyptians, people from the church, I gotta keep my hands, I gotta wash my hands from those people. Are we using our positions to help one another? If you wanna be great, right? Are you using the position that you're in to reflect the light of Christ? He says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Is your job the place that you are using as a church? Is your job the place where people are seeing your work, the way that you carry yourself, the light that you reflect Christ, impact every single one of your employees? You say, Abuna, I want to be great because I want to have more money in my bank account. Okay, you get money. Let's play it out. You get wealthy. What do you do with it? I buy myself a nice house. Okay. I buy myself a nice car. Okay. I go on nice vacations. Okay. And then what? There's a great missionary. His name was Jim Elliot. And he writes this very beautiful quote right before he goes and he gets martyred. And he says, he is no fool who loses that which he cannot keep in order to gain that which he cannot lose. He is no fool who loses that which he cannot keep in order to gain that which he cannot lose. We are so occupied with our earthly life. We're so occupied with being great. We're so occupied by our stature. We're so occupied by what people say about us, what we have, what we do. And Jesus is over here saying, be like kids. Kids trust. Kids forgive. Kids are always trying to share. It's hard sometimes, but they're trying to share. Kids are always trying, if I ever, upset my kids, they're so quick to forgive. So quick to say, it's okay, Daddy, it's okay. So quick. And we as adults, when somebody hurts us or when somebody insults us or when somebody does even the slightest thing to us, my dignity, karamti, right? Izay, how can somebody speak to me like this? How can they should have respect for me. Sinni, my age, my dignity, my respect. What dignity? What respect? Respect is what? Is earned, not given. That's why we can respect little children, because they're so quick to forgive. And Jesus is very keen on this morning. You want to be great? Go to the lowest place. You want to be great? Don't use and lord your authority over people. I'll never forget what Mba Thomas said almost 3 years ago during my ordination in this church. He said something very beautiful. He said, the job of a priest is to do what? Is to go down. And when he goes down, what can he do? He can lift others up. But if the priest lords over people, what does he do? Bifashum. He pushes them down. He squeezes them down. Right? And that's not just the role of the priest, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. That's the role of the Christian, is to go down to lift others up. To go down, to push people to the place of where they can be and where they are called to be. And we're so concerned with being top. We're so concerned about being the top, the best. And here we are missing the kingdom in the process. We're so concerned about building our kingdoms here on earth and forgetting the kingdom that awaits us. The question for every single one of us this morning is, do you want to be like a little child? Do you want to be like a little child? So forgive easily. Do you want to be like a child? Turn the other cheek. Do you want to be like a child? Share, be generous. Do you want to be like a child? Have a lot of faith. You teach a kid something, and the moment you teach it to them, they're like, wow. They believe easily. They're not skeptical about everything. They see somebody and they automatically believe that person is pure and has good intentions. Not, you're guilty until proven innocent, the way we often operate. Little kids have so much to teach us. And that's why he says, this is the kingdom of heaven. Let the little children come to me. And then he goes on to say, be careful if you cause these little kids to stumble. Be careful. Because if you cause these little ones to stumble, it would be better for you to have a millstone stuck around your neck and you be tossed into the sea. Kids start pure, but what happens? They come into contact with adults. Let's be honest. Kids start pure and then they come into contact with adults. Why? Because they see our anger, they see our tempers, they see our temperaments, they see the way that we deal with things, they see the way we cheat, they see the way we yell at one another, they see our egos, they see all the worst in us. They start pure, but then they come into contact with us. How convicting is that? How convicting is that? It's convicting. It's convicting to me as a priest, it's convicting to me as a father, it's convicting to me as a leader of this church. May all of us this morning look to the person of Christ, who was the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the one who had the angels praising him, covering their eyes because of his holiness. And what did he choose to come as? A baby. He chose to be a baby. He chose to empty himself. Let all of us empty ourselves. Let all of us choose the lowest place. Let all of us seek not to lord our authority over people, but to lift people up. And the more that we lift people up, the more the Lord lifts us up. And the more the Lord lifts us up, the more that we become a community of people that are going down, and the Lord is using our going down to lift the whole world around us up through our faith and our piety. May God give us grace this day and every day to be like him in all ways. Glory be to God forever. Amen.